The dentist.
There now. Better?
Love never dies. H.P. Lovecraft's Bride of Re-Animator.
Are we having fun yet?
Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation.
You're one of us now.
Join the club. The Re-Animator. Beyond Re-Animator. He's at it again. In Beverly Hills, what you fear is only the beginning.
Anything for society.
And here he is, the man himself, Mr. Brian Yuzna. Welcome, sir.
Hi.
So thank you for doing this. It's a pleasure to see you.
Good to see you, Gareth.
So, yes, writer, producer, actor sometimes when it's called for.
Very, very sometimes.
Well, let's start with that one. Cabby in, what's it called? I can never pronounce it. Necronomicon. Was that just because there was no one available, or is it you said I'm going to be in this film?
No, at that time, it was a good idea to be in the Actors Union so that you could get health care through them.
Okay.
And so, it was, if you put yourself in the movie, you could join the union, and then as long as you kept working, you'd get health care. But, I tried it, but I was, the crew would give me too much of a hard time if I was trying to act, and so I just let it go.
Just that and the attendant in the dentist, was it?
Yeah. There was a few of them around that time. But then, I went to Spain, and I guess it was right after The Dentist 2. And, then I was making movies outside of the US, so it didn't matter anyway.
Okay, I understand, yes. So let's start with your first film back in 1978, Self-Portrait in Brains.
Oh, well, that was like a student film type thing.
Okay.
It was a short film I did because I ended up with a 16 millimeter Bolex news camera.
Okay, nice.
And I found somebody who had gone to school and knew something about making movies, which I didn't. And so we tried to make a movie, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a short film, and I just had a great time. I just thought it was one of the most fun things I'd done.
Right.
And so then I showed it to my friends. I put it on VHS and I showed it to my friends. And then I realized it was really terrible. As long as I didn't show it to anybody, I thought it was great. And then when I watched it with my friends, they wanted to be nice about it and everything, but I could tell. And so, like an idiot, instead of doing another movie, I thought, well, I'll take this bad movie and make a feature out of it. Because at that time, I was also starting to read the trades and read Box Office Magazine. And I was thinking, wow, maybe you could make a living making movies. That would be great. Wow. And but like an idiot, instead of just going, okay, now let's start again, I just thought, well, we'll just keep adding to this one. So instead of a bad short film, I had a bad feature film. But I did learn the process of making a movie.
Exactly. It's good learning. Do you still have a copy of it, or is it lost to the time?
It should be lost. It should never rear its ugly face again.
In a vault somewhere, is it? Oh, okay. So I've got people saying hello. Good evening from Mr. Dan and Horror. Good evening from Matt at Pugball. Operator 80s here. So yes. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4. So many bugs, he loved it. Because that wasn't that the original title? Was it Bugs or something?
No, some country, I think Germany
Yeah.
I think Germany called it Welcome to Hell. And I think I don't know, Bugs might have been the UK.
I think that's how I remember saying it.
It was just I just finished making Bride of Re-Animator. And the company that bought the rights was a company called Live Entertainment. It was a video company. And they and the acquisitions guy came and to the set and he bought it. And then he said, look, I'm trying to make movies over here. And if I do them for a certain budget and have one actor from this list in it, I can make a movie. And he had bought the sequel rights to Return to Living, to Silent Night, Deadly Night. There had been 2 of them already. And then he made the third one with Monty Hellman. And then he said, let's make another one. And I had only, as far as directing goes, I had just directed Society and Bride of Re-Animator, which those deals I put together myself. I had no qualifications to make movies. So I had to be involved with the financing or else I wouldn't have a job. Nobody would hire me.
Oh.
And I had no education or experience, anything. And so he said, let's do that. And I thought, wow, this is the first time somebody's actually wants to hire me. Yeah, let's do it. And so I wasn't a fan of the Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I just thought, well, this is an opportunity to make a movie. And he already had a script he had done in-house by the development people at Live. And it was kind of a witch's coven type movie with that carried on the character of Ricky from the other 3 movies.
Right.
And so I got Woody Keith, who I worked with on Society and Screaming Mad George, and I worked with them on Society and Bride. And so we just went crazy and just turned the whole thing upside down and made a totally ridiculous, weird kind of movie based on the myth of Lilith. And I think we were just out of our minds when we made that.
That's how the best art is sometimes, isn't it? But yes, because you mentioned, was it Woody? But he goes by other names. Was it Zeph E. Daniel? Is that his real name?
No, his real name is Woodrow Keith.
Right.
And he grew up in Beverly Hills. As a matter of fact, Society is kind of like his fever dream of a biography. But then later, he moved out to New Mexico, and he kind of was reborn. He was sort of like Christian reborn, although kind of not your typical Christian. Right. And he took on the name of Zeph Daniel.
Okay.
And that's his name now.
Okay, that explains it. Because so you've done quite a few films with Screaming Mad George. Is that a good process working with him, or do you ever have arguments about how things should be done?
Well, I think that he sometimes maybe is disappointed in me, but I've always, from Society on, I just love his work, and we both like our tastes coincide, and in the surrealistic area. And so George is somebody that I just really respect and admire his work, and if there was a time when I would just try to bring him into anything, bring him in on any movie, but you couldn't bring him in. He's no good to do normal effects. Like you don't want to hire George to cut off a head or something.
Okay.
It's just a waste. He's got to do the weird things. So I'd always have to have something weird to scheme out with him. And on Initiation, that was pretty out there because we were doing simulacrum and just all kinds of weird stuff. It was definitely more poetic than logical, that movie.
Yes.
And George is kind of, and in surrealism and expressionism, it's more about what rhymes than what makes sense. So you kind of just keep hoping it all kind of comes together.
Yeah.
The Society was the best for him because that was a movie that really took advantage of his style of art. Other stuff, we just like with Bride, I try to give him the weird stuff at the end. Initiation is totally out of control. When I went out to, I think I did Progeny with him.
Oh, yes.
When I think he did some stuff on Necronomicon. And then, he might have even, I forget who did Jeffrey's Lovecraft makeup, but anyway, when I went to Spain, I brought him out to do like Faust and Beyond Re-Animator, to kind of mix results. I don't think he liked working in Spain. I think it was really hard for him. And I think he kind of, I think that might have been the last thing I worked with him on was Beyond Re-Animator. He moved back to Japan while I was in Spain.
Okay. That's all right. Yeah, because is it really gore in your films or is it something different?
Pardon?
Is it really, would you call it gore in your films or would you call it, or the stuff that happens?
Well, I would say that Re-Animator story.
Well, yes.
There's parts of Bride that are gory. There's certainly Initiation has some gory stuff. So there is gore.
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't say that Society, like the shunting, I really wouldn't call it gore. But maybe it's because I was very careful not to put the color red. I didn't want any. I didn't want any blood in it because I felt like that would kind of take it in a different direction. I like the surreal part of it, and so some stuff is more surrealistic or expressionistic, but there certainly are gore elements.
Oh yes,
in it.
Because I was noticing in the 80s and 90s, the UK cut lots of stuff out of films, mostly some of yours. But for some reason, Society they left alone. I wonder if it is because...
That is really, I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But also what's interesting is that Society was really quite successful in the UK. It was somewhat successful in France, Spain, Italy. It was not successful in the US. And they wanted stuff cut out. I don't exactly what the point of it is, but I think for some reason, I don't know. I think the movie was, for some reason, it worked in the UK, and I think they didn't see that they didn't feel like it was. I don't know. They seem to accept it. Maybe because it wasn't. It wasn't gore, and it also really wasn't about abusing females. Like in Germany, you can have back then you could have any kind of sex, but one thing they would not accept is gore with kind of abuse of women. That was the no-no. That's kind of a political stance, I think. And in the UK, you're right. The like Re-Animator was cut way back
Yeah.
in the UK. Lots of, well, they were the Video Nasties, the name of your
Yep.
program, and it was funny because there was an opposite point of view, as I recall, in the 80s between the US and the UK. And that was that in the US, there was this idea that what you showed in public at a movie theater for a public showing, they could censor or censor. You know, it's a convoluted way of self-censorship. But there's this idea that whatever you do in your own home is okay, right?
Right.
Whereas in the UK, it was the opposite. It was that you could show Bride of Re-Animator uncut at forget the name of that cinema, where it first showed. It was
it Odeon?
No, it was a old grand
okay.
Place for festivals. God, what was it called? But you could show it at a club. You know, you could show it kind of for the public or at a club, but you couldn't take it home. Like it was, they had to protect you from taking it home. So it's it's in both cases it's censorship.
Yeah.
Cultural censorship, not political. But the argument is the opposite, which is kind of, you know, it's sort of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, our cinemas are different because it's a legal age to get in. So if your films are like an 18 certificate, the cinema is legally bound to only let 18-year-olds in, otherwise they get in trouble.
Right.
So,
if you take it home, you could show it to your 3-year-old.
Pretty much. But then it'd be cut, probably. Because, I think my Return of the Living Dead is the full uncut version, which is the retail version that came out a few years later. So, yeah. And
yeah, that was an interesting issue with the MPAA. See, the thing is with Re-Animator, I paid for the movie.
Right.
And so I just chose not to put it in for a rating.
Okay.
So I could do that. You didn't have to sign up for the MPAA. You didn't have to give it to them.
Okay.
But if you didn't, then you had to put an X rating on it. And X very quickly became porn.
Yeah.
And X meant it limited you in terms of how many, in terms of the advertising you could do. It limited you, like Cineplexes might not accept it because it's X-rated. So with Re-Animator, I just knew that they were just going to cut all the good stuff out. And
Right.
So
Exactly.
I figured, why bother? You know, just put out the version that we wanted. On Society, I didn't pay for that, but I was the producer, and I was the director. I wasn't producer in title, but I was definitely, I was certainly doing a lot of that.
Okay.
But there was when it showed theater. Well, for one thing, it was released in the UK like a year or two before it was released in the US, and that's because the UK distributor bought the North American rights, but they had no structure to do anything in America.
Okay.
So it was delayed, and then when they did, I remember when it did show theatrically, like in LA, they shipped the prints from the UK over, and then it was given to the MPAA, and they had all these notes. It was diddle squats, just dipshit little stuff, right? Just taking the punch out of it a little.
Yeah.
And then I I went in my garage and had to cut the little bits out of each print
Oh.
before it went out.
Okay.
And I kept thinking, who's going to go check that? Who's going to go around and check it? But anyway, it was not popular here, even amongst my friends.
Oh.
And it wasn't for, but like I said, it did work in certain other countries. But it wasn't, it was about 10 or 20 years later, it developed an audience. It was like a different generation. Like my generation didn't like it here. But then my kids' generation did, you know.
Yeah.
And then it became very popular, and now it's really really popular as a kind of as a 80s movie, you know, VHS era movie. And so a lot of its weaknesses, because I was a first-time director, I didn't know what I was doing. I just learned to direct by producing a couple movies. I produced Re-Animator, Dolls, From Beyond, and then I learned directing by watching Stewart. And so then when I made Society, certainly a lot of it is you know, there's some very clumsy parts to it. And but I think 20 years after, people see the clumsy stuff, the awkward stuff, and they go, oh, that's the 80s, man. So you get the benefit, you know, you get the benefit of it being out of culture, you know. And now I don't think it, I think it's also interesting because it, because it's not a movie that was seminal. It didn't give rise to, it wasn't like Halloween and then you get Friday the 13th and blah, blah, blah. It sort of stood alone. So 20 years later, nothing's like it. It's not like you've seen a bunch of stuff like that. And so then so that kind of benefits its reputation. As a matter of fact, I get as much call for screenings of Society as Re-Animator these days. And Re-Animator is like a real classic horror movie. I mean, it's really well done, and you know, it's great. Society's pretty uneven, but it gets a lot of attention because it's just different.
That's true. Yeah, like you said, there is nothing out there like that. But I think someone mentioned, was there any plans for a sequel or a Society universe into a series later on?
I really have fallen down and doing sequels and stuff. But Zeph and I are just about done with the Society novelization. And probably coinciding with the 4K. And but I have a treatment for a sequel. I know what it is. You know, it's a well-developed treatment, but I just never found the money for it. You know, and I think what I'll do is just write it as a book first, and then it'll exist. You know.
Yeah.
But I would love to do that. I would love to do the sequel. I you know, because I have an idea for it. Another thing I thought would be fun would be to do I don't know. Well, maybe this doesn't work for a movie because, you know, filmmakers all like to do these portmanteau movies, you know, these compilations.
Yes.
But audiences don't like them. But I would love to do a compilation of Society where there'd be like 5 Society short films as a feature, because just see what people would do with it.
Yeah,
different people make a Society story, you know. But I guess you could also do it as a book, a bunch of short stories. I don't know, you know.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Either way, some more society. So, are you affected by real gore, like hospital documentaries or something like that? Do you turn away from those, or do you?
Go what?
Do you so real stuff with hospital documentaries of people being cut or operated on. Is that sort of thing you're
Oh
squeamish
no,
to?
I'm not. No, I'm not. Well, I'm not a. I'm not. I like entertaining genre movies.
Okay.
You know, I like. I don't know. I like everything. But I'm not really a Faces of Death guy. Or something.
Okay.
You know, I'm not. I'm not. I know that in the last 10 or 15 years, a lot of horror has become how graphic it can be or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't do much for me. I don't. It just doesn't. I like. I like more fun stuff, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be entertaining to the extent that it also can't be scary or disturbing.
Yeah.
It's just something that'll engage me. So I must say, of course, I'm an old man now, so that everything's colored by that. But most horror movies today just bore me. I just find them boring, and so I can't help it, Whereas 35 years ago, I just watched everything.
I'm the same, so
I just watched everything, But now I can't do that. I glaze over.
You have
a lot of them are so. I think a lot of it is very pretentious now too. There's sort of this sense that it can't just be a horror movie. It's really about something else.
Yeah.
It's got to be kind of. I don't know. Have some important.
Misunderstood villain or something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just me. I know these movies have big audiences and stuff.
Do you have a physical media collection, or are you a streaming guy?
Not really. The only physical collect. I mean, I've been through. God, I had thousands of VHSs at one time. And then when VHS became obsolete, I said, God, what are you getting? Because why are you having this stuff? And then I thought, well, online, I thought you'd be able to see anything you wanted to. And that's not exactly true. You can see anything in a certain level. But I think the old VHS video stores, at least here in LA, there was a few of them, where you could literally see just about anything, because they would be recorded off of another. They would be bad recordings, maybe, but they weren't. It was less. It's not like they're putting out a bunch of them.
Yeah,
you could rent it. But now it's a little. Now I kind of want to have a Blu-ray collection or something, because when I want to watch something or with somebody, it's kind of like, oh, now we got to pay $6 again to watch this thing. I owned it like 5 times. It's an old movie.
Yes, exactly.
But I have not much in the way of physical. Most of the physical stuff I had something to do with.
Sure.
Or stuff by friends, or stuff I put out.
Nice. Going off a tangent. You did a Tarzan TV show, 2 episodes, like the pilot episode. How did that come about? Tarzan, the TV series.
Oh, yeah. That was a job. It was, I was a bad, I was the wrong guy for that because I didn't know how to do TV. If I could go back and do it, I think I'd know how to do it. But what was interesting about that was that we shot it in Orlando.
Okay.
And we were part of the Disney MGM tour. So our offices were part of the tour. We had to leave our windows open, our production offices, and the tram would go by and they would say, this is costuming, there's production. And then the stages, we had to orient the set towards this wall where they have glass, and these bleachers would move by silently with people from the theme park watching us work. And then when lunchtime came, we'd go out the door and be in the middle of Disney tour, and we'd be on the set. And the cool thing about it was we got to shoot at three or four different theme parks. So we could shoot anywhere in Epcot, the Epcot Disney World, Universal tour,
Okay.
and the what do they call it? I forget. It was a nature park.
Oh yeah. Oh
And so when we needed Paris for the TV show, we went to Epcot, where they have a little corner of Paris. When we needed, a water scene, we went to the water show area of Universal. We basically shot the movie in the theme park. That was really great. The big jungle tour, the jungle cruise we used.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, I guess
The
that makes it
problem
easier.
with me was I pushed back from the beginning because they wanted to make Tarzan a vegetarian. They didn't want him killing any animals. And I kind of thought, damn, Tarzan's a savage, man. So I couldn't, I was pushing back. I just didn't have much experience working within a situation where I wasn't the kind of almost the ultimate boss. It's hard for me. I just didn't learn those tools.
Right.
And then they didn't want to have him swing on a vine, and and I'm going, geez, that's not the Tarzan I know. But if I could go back, I think I could do a much better job.
Okay. But yeah, he's a jungle man. He's not gonna be living on nuts and flowers, is he? So yeah, with that body. So yeah. So and From Beyond, you filmed that in Italy?
Yeah.
That's all studios, that is it.
Yeah, we shot 2 movies back to back there in Rome on Dino Città, which is Dino De Laurentiis Studios.
Yeah.
And we actually built the interior of the house for dolls and shot that before Christmas. We broke for Christmas and redressed it to be the house for From Beyond. And then we cut the movies together simultaneously.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so there was very little outside the studio. It was, most of those movies is inside.
Good.
One inside the doll maker's house, the dolls. There's a little bit on a road or something. The Hitchhiking Girls, and then the From Beyond is basically all in the house. It's just that when the resonator goes on, there's monsters.
Did you actually get to travel around Italy in off time, or are you just making films constantly?
Well, when we lived there, I took my family there.
Okay.
And we lived there while we were making those movies, and that was great in Rome. But I did get to go up, do some traveling. And I've been back to Italy many, many times since.
Oh, good.
So I've been not in the south much, but from Rome, Florence, Umbria, Trieste, Milan.
Oh, nice.
Torino, that part of Italy. I'm somewhat familiar with. I like Italy a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Have you been to the UK much?
Quite a lot of times. Not extensively. Mostly just London and maybe a little outside. I've been to a few. I've been to Manchester and I've been to some of the coastal towns. And I've worked in. I edited 2 movies or 1 movie in UK. And so, yeah, I had an apartment when I was when we were doing the post on, I guess it must have been Beneath Still Waters or.
Okay, yeah.
And I lived in Bayswater, and then I lived in Marylebone.
Okay.
So I did live in two different parts of London and kind of commuted. I mean, I worked in Soho, I think is where the studios were.
Yeah.
And so, I'm fairly familiar, especially with London. And I've been out to East Anglia, and I've taken the train places, and so but I love it. I love London. I love England. I think it's really a great place.
Yeah. Because where did you film Amphibious? That was somewhere sunny, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Where did you film Amphibious?
Amphibious, I did it in Indonesia. At that time, I lived in Indonesia, and I was trying to make a label there. It's called Komodo Films.
Right.
And so I had done it in Spain. I had Fantastic Factory. Then after the Fantastic Factory, I thought, well, I got a chance to go I lived in Jakarta for a few years.
Okay.
And so we were trying to make a line of films in Jakarta, in Indonesia, for the world market.
Right.
We bumped up against the Great Recession. So right when we were getting going, then the great capital market collapse happened. And my Indonesian partner, I had an Indonesian partner and a Dutch partner, and the Indonesian partner was financing the films. I was making them.
Okay.
And he was financing them. He was a partner in a hedge fund, and so he was financing them with money from the hedge fund. But when the big economic crises happened, boom, the money fell out. And so, we only made 2 movies. But Amphibious was interesting because I was making it with all Indonesians. Just like in Spain, I just made it with all Spanish.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it wasn't like an American crew going to another country, not at all. Indonesia, in Spain, they have a pretty developed film industry. The culture of filming, the production culture is certainly somewhat different from the U.S. In Spain, it's based on subsidies from the government. And so those types of subsidies really influence how movies are made and what movies get made. And there was, at that time, there was a lot of you could make a living being a filmmaker in Spain, and with your movies not being seen by hardly anybody and be respected, And so they would make a lot of movies that really didn't have much of a market outside Spain, and not even much inside, and they didn't respect a lot genre films or commercial movies. There were, of course, some extraordinary filmmakers like Paul Naschy or Jess Franco who did it anyway. But in general, when I started making the Fantastic Factory, it really did change the culture, changed movies in Spain, because I took the American style, which was to make a movie that you could sell all over the world, and you could pre-sell them. So I was able to pre-sell our first 4 titles to the company that financed Return of the Living Dead 3, to The Dentist, And so they were amazed by that. And now you get a lot of that in Spain. Spain has made some really great international, genre movies, good ones, real good ones. In Indonesia, I thought we could do the same thing. In Spain, I think at first I brought a DP from the US. I brought a couple actors. I was trying to make the movies so you couldn't tell where they were made,
Sure.
And but I very quickly quit bringing people over. I started using all Spanish key collaborators, and even with the actors, if I needed English-speaking actors, I would just get them from London, because
Sure.
actors from London, Barcelona is like going to Tijuana if you're in LA.
It's about an hour away, yeah.
Yeah, they come down for the weekend. But if you bring an American from LA and bring them to Barcelona, you almost have to have a whole team of people to take care of them because they're so nervous. They think that it doesn't work.
Sure.
And but I would bring a few. It was hard to find effects people.
Yeah.
And I did bring some effects. Well, I brought Screaming Mad George. I did eventually, with Beyond Re-Animator, I was able to find some good effects people. It's certainly not to the level that I wanted, but it's in some ways, yes.
Okay.
And but when I went to Indonesia, it was all different ballgame, because their cinema industry is way not developed. Really,
Okay.
basic. And they didn't even have post. They'd send their post to Thailand.
Right.
Yeah. But I the first movie I made there is called Takut, Faces of Fear. And I think it's 5 short films. And I got 5 directors, 5 screenwriters, 5 producers, and they all made a film. And I was just basically trying to see what you could do. It's kind of no budget stuff.
Okay.
There a couple of them are pretty good, but it's real rudimentary. When I made Amphibious, I was doing 3D. Giant 40-foot sea scorpion. And I brought, in the island of Bali, I met a Swiss guy who had a business there. And he was interested in making anything. And so I brought a LA effects guy over and had him teach this guy's crew how to do the basic rubber effects, the 80s puppetry rubber effects.
Yeah.
And these guys, we were in the middle of the jungle of Bali. When it was very modern, but out the window, people were throwing rice in the air, and the guys who worked there didn't wear shoes and wouldn't sit in chairs. They did all their work on the floor for the most part. Sure. And I don't want to overstate it, but it was, we built all that. We built in the jungle of Bali, we built a 40-foot sea scorpion that took 12 people to operate with hydraulics.
Right.
And that was done completely with people who had never been on a movie set before. Never. They're in Bali. It's not an industrial area. So, and it's and then when we shot the movie, it was during Ramadan. Everybody's was Muslim. In my office, we always had to put the call to prayer listed every day. People would go get their mats and stuff. And they were shooting during Ramadan, which means that they couldn't eat or drink during the daylight hours.
Yeah.
And we were shooting on the water. We built this platform on the ocean, on the water. And so it's burning hot.
Yeah.
All day long, they're not eating or drinking. You know, it was, and then we were doing 3D. It was right when 3D was starting up again, when that, you know, that, and so I was doing a lot of research into 3D, and we had big old rigs, the old-fashioned rigs. You know, this is when they were, you know, it had that little spurt again of 3D, and that was fascinating. I'd love to do another 3D movie.
Nice, because yeah, you're fluent in Spanish.
I grew up in Panama, Nicaragua, and Puerto Rico.
Okay, yeah.
I moved to the United States when I was 14. Now, I went to school on, you know, in sort of, I guess, you know, neo-colonial schools, but I lived in Panama City, Managua,
Right. Okay.
San Juan. And so even though, it's funny, even though I went to school being raised there, we had almost no instruction in Spanish. We maybe have an hour a week where they would have a Spanish class. But when I went home after school, everybody did speak English. So I learned, when I grew up, I learned, I guess, what you'd call street Spanish. It was just slang and not correct Spanish, formally not correct, just slang.
Yeah.
But what it gave me was a good accent.
Right.
Well, it sounds like I can speak much better than I could. When I moved to Spain, of course, I thought I was moving to Spain, but I moved to Catalonia. And Catalan is a different language.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get that. And then I would carry, I remember for the first year I was in Barcelona, I carried this is 1999.
Okay.
So this is before, you know, we had fax machines. We had tiny computers, but we didn't have like smartphones, and, you know, we had flip phones, you know.
Yeah. There was no.
But you didn't really have the internet like you do now. But it was, but I carried a book called 1,000 Spanish Verbs.
Aha.
And, you know, they were always giving me scripts and novels to read. So I would just have to sit there with a dictionary next to me.
Oh dear.
And then with scripts, it's all Spanish slang. So it was really a bath of fire. But because the company I worked within, nobody spoke English, I just had to hurry up and get better at it.
Did the same thing happen in Indonesia, or did you just?
No. You know, I screwed up. I should have immediately learned Indonesian, or what they call Bahasa.
Okay.
And I didn't. And Indonesian is a very easy language to learn. So it was really foolish of me not to learn it.
Right. Because there is some in Amphibious. There is some CGI and a lot of practical effects.
Yeah. Well, there had to be CGI because to make a giant sea scorpion, I built the full-on one so you could interact with it.
Yes.
But if you want to see its face, you want to see the mandibles moving and the eyes be alive, then you can't make things go that fast. So then you have to add some CGI. And then we did puppetry so it could move around. We built a 5-6 foot puppet. But then if it's coming up out of the water and stuff, so then you have to have CGI. So that was the only movie I did that had real on, where I learned about how you do CGI, and I kind of figured out why CGI was the way it was. You know?
Right. Yeah. So you think if they remade Re-Animator or something of yours now, it would be mostly CGI action happening?
I don't know. I don't know. If I was in charge, it wouldn't. All my friends, I remember that do it. I've had a couple cheap horror movies made in my house.
Okay.
And I remember one of them, it's called Reborn. And it's kind of like Carrie, but she has electrical power.
Okay.
And I'm going, well, if you're going to do electrical stuff, they said, oh, it'll all be CGI. I said, no, man, you've got to put some real stuff. You can augment it.
Yeah.
You've got to put some real sparks, smoke. Oh, no, we can add the sparks and the smoke. And, you know, it just doesn't look right. It looks terrible. And then they even, if there's a blood splat against the wall, they'll do it with CGI instead of throw red stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
And they just think, I said, you know, when you go into the church of CGI, you don't end up in Jurassic Park. You can't afford that. If you can afford the top end CGI, yeah, that can be pretty good stuff. But believe me, that's not what you're getting on a cheap movie.
Well, yeah, even the top stuff, the blood just doesn't flow right and doesn't look right.
Well, I remember when on Progeny, I worked with Arnold Vosloo. He was the star. And Arnold, and around that time, The Mummy came out. And Arnold played the mummy before he's the mummy. He played whatever the Pharaoh guy was.
Yeah.
And at one point, his whole mouth, his whole face is decaying, you know? And when I saw it opening day with him here on Hollywood Boulevard. I wanted to tell people, this is the mummy. I saw the mummy with the mummy. You know? But when I saw that effect, it's like really like deteriorating mouth and gaping gaw.
Yeah.
And if it had been, it was CGI. And I saw that if it had been done with just regular rubber makeup, it would have been cut. It would have been censored. But because it was CGI, it's fake enough that little kids it's animation.
Yeah.
And I think that is you know, puppets and real stuff and liquid and smoke. When it's real, it's real. And when it's CGI, it's very sophisticated. It can be very sophisticated, but it's animation.
Yeah.
And animation doesn't have the same, you don't have the same relationship to it.
Yeah. They say it's quicker and cheaper by CGI, but then these films are costing 300 million to put someone in a green room and then draw around them.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm not against CGI. I augmenting is great. You know, I use it to make things better, but I don't think there's, you know, when you have when you do practical, you know, makeup and mechanical effects. It's, you know, these guys the effects guys, their union is the Screen Actors Guild. Because they're performing. A puppeteer is performing. Screen Mad George can put his hand in a sock and bring it to life. And you'll be like, whoa. To do that with CGI is very, very many layers of difficulty. But puppeting, somebody is performing. You know, on Society and the shunting, that's basically a man in a suit. It's just that it's 12 people in a suit. Would you hold 1 second?
Yeah, carry on.
Let me put you on mute.
Mute me.
Hello?
That's it. So yeah, exactly. A mixture's good, but there we go.
I think so, yes.
Once he's finished. Thank you, George. Partly Forgotten's here.
I've got about 5 minutes. And then
We'll wrap this up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's no problem. Let's just go with the big one then. So you've done 3 sequels to other people's work. Did you? So Living Dead 3, Sunlight 4, and Bride Re-Animator.
And Beyond Re-Animator.
And Beyond Re-Animator, yeah.
and Initiation.
And Initiation, yeah.
I do a lot of sequels. Yeah. I like sequels.
Yeah. Do you ever look at people's work beforehand and try and bring it into yours, or just say,
no,
I'm doing my way?
I think on I tend to see it as an excuse to make a movie. But it doesn't mean that, but it's much better if it's a movie that I really like. Like Return of the Living Dead 3, I was really wanting to do that. Now I know I didn't do it like Dan O'Bannon, and a lot of people didn't like that. But I was also trying to do it as a sequel to Romero.
Right.
Because O'Bannon did an alternate sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And I wanted to do both, to draw from both of them. And I was really dying to do that movie.
Cool.
With Silent Night, I didn't care for the Silent Night movies, so I just did whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
What are the other ones?
Re-Animator ones.
Oh, Re-Animator, that was very daunting because for one thing, Re-Animator was my movie, and I was really scared that it wouldn't be like Re-Animator. And Beyond, even worse, because I shot it in Spain. Everybody was Spanish except Jeffrey Combs and me. Okay. And I didn't know if we were going to be, and we shot it in Valencia. I didn't know if we were going to be able to make it even seem like Re-Animator, So those are really tough. But something like Initiation or, it doesn't really, it was just the idea of doing a movie. Now I unfortunately for scheduling problems, I had the opportunity to do a Pumpkinhead sequel. And I was real disappointed not to do it because I would love to do a Pumpkinhead movie. And I just have I have an idea about what it should be like, So I'm not against sequels. A lot of people are, but I don't know. I think my identity isn't wound up so much as a director, maybe because I started as a producer, or I guess I just I remember when we were going to do Bride of Re-Animator, Stewart had a big time agent then, and he said, "Well, my agent says I don't do sequels," and I thought, okay. Well, at his stage in his career, you don't know. He could have. I mean, Stewart, for his talent, could have ended up making the biggest movies in Hollywood. He's so good of a storyteller. But of course, his problem was like mine, which is one reason we got along well, is because he had been working 10 years or more already doing theater where he was the boss of boss. He was the creative director. He just didn't have hadn't developed the skills to work within these big bureaucracies and these big shark tanks.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden you're working around people who are very talented and getting paid a ton of money and want your job or want your picture, and you have to. There's lots of layers of executives and stuff. Well, to work within a corporation takes you got to learn the skills. And I really admire people who've been able to do that, independent filmmakers who've been able to, Sam Raimi has been able to make a Spider-Man movie, You see these guys and you go, wow, they were able to do it, the little indie way, self-finance, and then they had the ability to work within a very tough system and do it well.
Yeah.
So that's I think Stewart could have been that guy. And so it doesn't, I totally get that his agent's saying, no, man, forget that sequel stuff. Let's get you the big, let's move you up into the A list, you know? So that's why I did Bride. You know,
Okay.
because Stewart, you know, he was trying to get bigger jobs. But I didn't, I just wanted to try it. I just wanted to try directing. You know, my ego wasn't really taken up in it. I just didn't want to be, you know, to be a laughing stock. You know, I didn't want to be I didn't want to fail. I wanted people to like it, but I was just sort of learning myself. And I really do, you know, there are a lot of sequels I'd love to do. You know, I like the originals.
Yes. Why not? Excellent. Well, thank you. Anyway, I'll let you go. I'll just say happy birthday for at the end of the month.
Nope, that's all wrong. My birthday's the 30th of April, not 30th.
Ah, see,
I don't know why they got it wrong, but I'm glad they did. At least at one time I was. At one time I thought, I like this. The internet's wrong, you know.
Well, you could be
But
like our
on the
king
other
queen.
hand, now we have so much fake facts.
Yes.
Now I don't like that. You know, I hate that everything's fake. You know. But anyway, thank you. I accept that in the spirit that you offered it.
Thank you, and thank you for your time. And I'll say good day to you, sir.
Okay.
You take care.
Nice to be on the show. Happy to come on anytime.
Sure.
Talk to you later.
Done it. All right. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, and goodbye.